My own parents pretended they didn't know me. Right there in my restaurant. Called me waitress like I was nobody. Like the 32 years I'd spent breathing on this planet meant absolutely nothing to them. I'm standing there in my black dress, the one I always wear when I'm checking on the evening service, and my mother, my own mother, she waves me over like I'm some random server who wandered into her perfect little family dinner. The look in her eyes wasn't confusion. It was calculation. Pure, cold calculation. But let me back up, because you need to understand how we got here. How a family dinner turned into the moment I finally saw my parents for who they really were. 3 months ago, I bought Romano's. You know the place on 5th Street, the one with the red awning and the little patio that's always packed on weekends? Yeah, that's mine now. Took me 8 years of working 2 jobs, living in a studio apartment that was basically a closet, eating ramen for dinner more nights than I care to admit. But I did it. I bought my dream restaurant. My family didn't know. Not my parents, not my sister Emma. Why would I tell them? Every time I'd shared good news before, they'd found a way to make it about them or tear it down. When I got promoted to assistant manager at my old job, my dad said, "Well, assistant isn't really manager, is it?" When I moved out of that terrible apartment complex, my mom asked if I was sure I could afford the rent. Always that doubt, always that little voice telling me I wasn't quite good enough. So when I finally made the leap, when I signed those papers and became a restaurant owner, I kept it to myself. I wanted to prove I could do it without their input. Emma had been dating this guy Jake for about 6 months. Nice enough kid, 24, works construction during the day. What she didn't know was that Jake had been picking up evening shifts at my place for the past month. Needed the extra cash, he said. Good worker, showed up on time, customers liked him. I don't get involved in my employees' personal lives, so when he mentioned his girlfriend Emma, I never connected the dots. Emma's a common name, right? The universe has a twisted sense of humor. It was a Tuesday night, middle of November. The dinner rush was winding down, and I was doing my usual walkthrough, checking on tables, making sure everything was running smooth. That's when I saw them. Table 12, the corner booth with the good lighting. My parents, my sister, and this guy I'd been paying $15 an hour for the past month. My heart did this weird skip thing. You know that feeling when you see someone you love unexpectedly? That little surge of happiness? Yeah, that lasted about 3 seconds. Because when I walked over, smiling, ready to surprise them with the news that this was MY Place, my mother looked right through me. Not past me. Through me. Like I was furniture. "Excuse me," she said, her voice dripping with that particular brand of condescension she usually reserved for telemarketers. "Could we get some more bread? And maybe check on our appetizer? We ordered the calamari 20 minutes ago." I stood there frozen. My sister Emma was texting, not even looking up. My father was studying the wine list like it held the secrets of the universe. And Jake was staring at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Panic? Recognition? Fear? "Mom," I said quietly. "It's me." She looked up then, really looked, and for a split second I saw something flicker across her face. Recognition, yes, but not the kind I was hoping for. It was the look someone gives when they realize they've been caught doing something they shouldn't. "Oh," she said, and her voice went flat. "Hello, Sarah." Not honey, not sweetheart, not even dear. Just my name, said like she was reading it off a receipt. Emma finally looked up from her phone. "Sarah? What are you doing here?" Now here's where it gets interesting. Because I could have just told them. Could have said, "Surprise. This is my restaurant." Could have made it a happy family moment, shared my success, maybe even invited them to dinner on the house. But something in their faces stopped me. Something cold and dismissive and embarrassed. Were they embarrassed to be seen with me? Their own daughter, their own sister? "I work here," I said instead. Testing them. Giving them a chance to be decent human beings. My father nodded, like that made perfect sense. Like of course his daughter would be waiting tables at 32. Like all those years of college, all those promotions, all that hard work had led exactly where he'd expected it to lead. Nowhere important. "Well," my mother said, turning back to her menu, "could you please check on that calamari? We're quite hungry." They dismissed me. My own family dismissed me like I was nobody. I walked back to the kitchen, my hands shaking. Not from nerves. From rage. Pure, clean rage that burned in my chest like acid. Carlos, my head chef, took one look at my face and asked if I was okay. I told him to hold off on the calamari for table 12. Indefinitely. For the next hour I watched them from the kitchen window. My parents, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, treating me like hired help. Emma kept snapping her fingers at other servers, demanding this and that. My father complained loudly about the service, making sure everyone could hear how dissatisfied he was. And Jake? Jake looked like he wanted to crawl under the table and disappear. He kept glancing toward the kitchen, toward where he knew I was watching. The kid was smart enough to realize he was sitting in the middle of a family drama that was about to explode. Around 9:30, when the restaurant was nearly empty, I decided it was time. I walked back to their table, no longer playing the role of their server. This time, I was every inch the owner I'd worked so hard to become. How was everything? I asked, my voice steady and professional. Terrible, my mother said immediately. The service was slow, the food was mediocre, and frankly, the staff seems undertrained. My sister nodded along. The calamari never even came. How do you mess that up? I smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes. The kind that makes smart people very nervous. Jake, I said, turning to my sister's boyfriend, how's your evening going? The kid went pale. Absolutely white. Sarah, You know each other? Emma asked, looking between us with confusion. Oh yes, I said, pulling out the chair at the head of their table and sitting down without invitation. Jake's been working for me for about a month now. Good employee. Shows up on time, works hard, doesn't treat the other staff like garbage. The silence that followed was deafening. My father was the first to speak. Working for you? MMM. I leaned back in my chair, perfectly calm. Jake, would you mind telling my family what my job title is here? Jake looked like he was about to throw up. She's the owner. Another silence. Longer this time. I could practically hear the gears turning in their heads, recalculating everything they thought they knew about me. Emma laughed. Actually laughed. No, she's not. Sarah works in retail or something. Right, Mom? My mother's face had gone very still. She was processing, working through the implications. She was always the smartest one in the family, my mother. The first to spot an opportunity. You own this place? My father asked, and I could see the dollar signs practically lighting up in his eyes. I do. Since when? 3 months ago. More silence. Then slowly, like sunrise breaking over a mountain, their expressions began to change. The dismissal melted away, replaced by something much worse. Interest. Calculated, hungry interest. Well, my mother said, her voice suddenly warm, suddenly familiar. Why didn't you tell us? We're so proud of you, honey. Honey. Now I was honey. Are you? I asked. Because 20 minutes ago you didn't even acknowledge me as your daughter. We were just surprised. Emma jumped in. We didn't expect to see you here. You didn't expect to see me at my own restaurant? We didn't know it was your restaurant, my father said, and his voice had taken on that tone. The one he used when he was working in Angle. This is wonderful news, Sarah. Really wonderful. I watched them scramble, watched them try to rewrite the last hour in their heads. Suddenly I wasn't the failure daughter waiting tables. I was the successful daughter who owned property, who had money, who had something they could use. You know, my mother said, leaning forward conspiratorially, your father and I have been thinking about investing in a business. Haven't we, Robert? My father nodded eagerly. We have some capital we've been looking to put to work. This could be perfect. And I've always been interested in restaurant management, Emma added. Maybe I could help you run this place. You probably need someone with fresh ideas. There it was. The vultures circling. Within 5 minutes of learning I owned something valuable, they were already planning how to get their claws into it. Jake was staring at the table, probably wishing he'd never taken this job, never met my sister, never been born. That's interesting, I said. Because an hour ago you thought I was incompetent enough to be a bad waitress. Now you want to invest in my business and help me run it. Sarah, my mother said, using her patient voice, the one that always made me feel like a difficult child. You're being dramatic. We were just surprised. It's wonderful that you've done so well for yourself. Is it? Because when I told you I got promoted to assistant manager, you said it wasn't a real management position. When I moved to a better apartment, you questioned whether I could afford it. When I said I was thinking about starting my own business, you asked if I was sure I was ready for that kind of responsibility. They exchanged glances. The kind married couples share when they're trying to coordinate their story. We were just being cautious, my father said. We didn't want you to get in over your head. But now that I've proven I can do it, you want in. We want to support you, my mother corrected. Families should support each other. I laughed. Actually laughed, long and loud enough that the few remaining customers turned to look. Families should support each other? Where was that support when I was working 70-hour weeks to save money for this place? Where was it when I was living on ramen and determination? Where was it 30 minutes ago when you pretended not to know who I was? We explained that, Emma said, her voice getting sharp. We were surprised. No, I said, standing up. You were embarrassed. You saw someone you thought was beneath you and you treated them accordingly. The only thing that changed was your perception of what I could do for you. I could see the panic starting to set in. They were realizing that their usual tactics weren't working. That maybe, just maybe, they'd miscalculated. Sarah, please, my mother said, reaching for my hand. Don't be like this. We're your family. I pulled my hand away. Are you? Because families don't treat each other like strangers. Families don't pretend not to know each other because they're embarrassed by association. We never said we were embarrassed, my father protested. You didn't have to. It was written all over your faces. The moment you saw me in this restaurant, you assumed I was just another server, and that assumption was so comfortable for you that you didn't even bother to really look. Jake finally spoke up. Sarah, I'm really sorry about this. I had no idea. You're fine, Jake, I said. You're not responsible for their behavior. You want to keep working here, the job's yours. You want to date my sister, that's between you two. But understand this, my family and my business are two separate things now. What does that mean? Emma asked, and I could hear the edge of panic in her voice. It means that Romano's is mine. Every table, every chair, every decision. Mine. And I've decided that you're no longer welcome here. The words hung in the air like smoke. You can't be serious, my father said. I own this place. I can refuse service to anyone I choose. And I choose to refuse service to people who treat my staff badly. To people who are rude and dismissive and entitled. To people who think they can walk into my restaurant and demand special treatment just because they share my DNA. Sarah, my mother's voice was getting desperate now. You're overreacting. This is just a misunderstanding. No, Mom. This is clarity. For the first time in my life, I'm seeing you all exactly as you are. And what I see are people who only value me when they think I can do something for them. I walked to the front of the restaurant and held the door open. Your bill has been taken care of. Please leave. They sat there for a moment stunned. Like they couldn't quite believe what was happening. Like their world had shifted on its axis and they couldn't find their footing. My father stood first. Fine. But don't come crying to us when this place fails. Restaurants fail all the time, Sarah. You'll need family then. If this place fails, I said quietly, it'll be because I made mistakes, not because I didn't have the right investors. And if it succeeds, it'll be because I built something good, not because I had the right connections. Emma was the last to leave. She paused at the door, looking back at me with something that might have been regret. Or might have been calculation. With my family, it was hard to tell the difference. You're really going to choose a restaurant over your family? She asked. I'm choosing self-respect over enabling people who don't respect me. If you can't see the difference, that's part of the problem. They left. All of them, walking out into the November night, probably planning their next move in the parking lot. How to salvage this? How to get back in my good graces? How to convince me I was being unreasonable? Jake lingered by the door. Sarah, I really am sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I know, I said. You're still welcome to work here. What happens between you and Emma is your business. But understand that my family won't be getting any special treatment just because you're dating my sister. He nodded and left, probably to deal with the fallout of dating into the most dysfunctional family in the tri-state area. I locked the door behind them and turned off the lights, leaving just the security lighting on. The restaurant felt different now. Quieter. Like it was finally completely mine. The next few weeks were interesting. My mother called daily, at first apologetic, then frustrated, then angry. My father sent texts about family loyalty and burning bridges. Emma tried a different approach, showing up at the restaurant with Jake in tow, hoping he could convince me to give them another chance. I had the locks changed. The funny thing is, the restaurant started doing better. Word got out somehow. Maybe Jake told someone, maybe one of my other employees overheard, but people started coming in specifically because they'd heard about the owner who kicked out her own family for being rude to the staff. The story grew and the telling became legendary. The woman who chose her principles over her blood relatives. My staff started working harder, treating customers better, taking pride in being part of a place where respect mattered more than relationships. Where good service was valued over family connections. 3 months later, we were booked solid every weekend. 6 months later, I was looking at opening a second location. My parents showed up one more time, about 8 months after that first night. They'd clearly rehearsed their approach. My mother wore her best dress, the one she saved for important occasions. My father had his hair cut and was wearing his good suit. Emma had put on makeup and styled her hair. They sat at table 12, the same booth where it all started, and waited for me to notice them. I did notice, but I didn't approach. Instead, I sent Marcus, one of my best servers, to take their order. They ordered drinks and appetizers, clearly planning to stay for a while. Clearly hoping I'd eventually come over and talk to them. They waited 2 hours, nursing their drinks, watching me move through the restaurant, greeting customers, checking on tables, being the owner I'd worked so hard to become. I never approached their table. Finally, my mother asked Marcus to get me. Said it was important. Family business. Marcus came to find me in the kitchen. The people at table 12 want to speak with you. They say it's family business. Tell them, I said, not looking up from the inventory sheet I was working on, that I'm busy with my business. My real business. The one that actually values me. He delivered the message. They left 20 minutes later, their food barely touched. I haven't seen them since. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. If I miss having a family. If I think I was too harsh, too unforgiving. If maybe I should have given them another chance. But here's the thing I learned that night at table 12, respect isn't something you can demand or inherit or take for granted. It's something you earn and something you give. And people who truly love you don't need to see your bank account or your business ownership papers to treat you with basic human dignity. My real family now is the team I've built at Romano's. Carlos, who makes the best osso buco this side of Italy and remembers my birthday every year. Marcus, who treats every customer like they're the most important person in the room. Lisa, my hostess, who somehow makes everyone feel welcome from the moment they walk in the door. These people see me every day at my worst. Stressed about inventory, frustrated with suppliers, tired from 18-hour days during busy season. And they still respect me. Still support me. Still show up and do their best work because they believe in what we're building together. That's family. Not the people who share your DNA but can't be bothered to see your worth. The people who choose to be in your life and prove it every day through their actions. Romano's is more than just a restaurant now. It's a testament to what happens when you stop accepting less than you deserve. When you stop making excuses for people who don't value you. When you choose to build something beautiful with people who see your worth instead of constantly trying to prove your worth to people who've already decided you don't have any. Every night when I lock up and turn off the lights, I think about that moment when my mother called me waitress, like it was something shameful. Like serving others was beneath her daughter. Like honest work was something to be embarrassed about. Now I employ 15 people. I provide jobs, paychecks, health insurance. I've created something that brings joy to thousands of customers every year. I've turned a struggling restaurant into a community cornerstone, a place where people celebrate anniversaries and birthdays, where first dates become proposals, where families gather to create memories. And I did it all without their support, their investment, or their approval. Sometimes the greatest gift your family can give you is showing you exactly who they are, so you can decide exactly who you want to be. They showed me they were people who only valued what I could do for them. So I became someone who values what I can do for others who actually appreciate it. The restaurant business is brutal. Long hours, thin margins, constant stress. But every morning when I unlock the doors and flip on the lights, I remember why I do this. Not for the money, though the success has been gratifying. Not for the recognition, though the reviews have been wonderful. I do it because I built something that matters. Something that's mine. Something that can't be taken away by people who only love you when it's convenient. If you've made it this far, you probably have your own story about family members who only show up when they need something. About people who make you feel small until they realize you have something they want. About the moment you realize that blood doesn't automatically equal love and love doesn't automatically equal respect. Share your story in the comments. Tell me about the moment you chose yourself over people who didn't choose you. And if you want to hear more stories about finding your strength in unexpected places, hit that subscribe button. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting better.